Namaste, friends, disciples, and devotees. During this time, when the coronavirus is still continuing its damage and sealing us off physically from the life that we would lead, many in the ashram, many elsewhere, I'm going to speak today some things about Mother, and I would like to begin with a poem that I wrote a number of years ago. Its title is Bringer of the Heavenly Light. The whispering grasses welcoming her feet, the branches bowing low to shade her hair. What plenitude of grace that we should meet the creatrix of the worlds, seated there in a little room fronting Bengal's shore. We who from the caverns of the night, or spaces cold upon a darkened plain, were led by fate and by awakened sight to see the light we lost once again, and open to her love at being's core. He is the calm that gathers in the storm, she the bringer of the heavenly light, who guides our souls and shields us from all harm, and sheds on us her great and golden light, that we may tread the path and fear no more. And now from Sri Aurobindo. Question to him. Is it true that the nearer the descent of the supermind, the greater will be the difficulties of those in whom it is to come down? Sri Aurobindo. It is true, unless they are so surrendered to the mother, so psychic, plastic, free from ego, that the difficulties are spared to them. Be sure that the mother will be always with you to carry you upon the path. Difficulties come and difficulties go, but she, being with you, the victory is sure. When difficulties arise, remain quiet within and call down the mother's force to remove them. What one cannot do oneself, one can get done by calling the mother's force. To receive that and let it work in you is the true means of success in the sadhana. In such conditions, try to remain as quiet as possible within. And if you cannot call the mother, think of her and expect the help of the force. Do not admit these suggestions of despair or impatience. Give time for the mother's force to act. The one thing necessary is to be turned to the mother, and that is all that is needed. Do not fear or be sad, but let the mother do quietly her work in you and through you, and all will be well. These attacks are always on the outer part of the consciousness, covering up the inner being. One should always try to detach, separate the inner being, and look at the attack as a movement of the surface. Keep always this thought when these things come. The mother's protection is with me. Nothing bad can happen. For when there is the psychic opening and one puts one's faith in the mother, that is sufficient to ward these things off. When in difficulties, always remain as quiet within as possible and call the mother. Surely the mother's force is there to transform you, and it will prevail. When you go into the vital world, you meet many such things. The one sufficient protection is to call the mother. To call to the mother always is the main thing. And with that, to aspire and assent to the light when it comes. To reject and detach oneself from desire and any dark movement. But if one cannot do these things successfully, then call and still call. The mother's force is there with you, even when you do not feel it. Remain quiet and persevere. If you cannot call the mother in what you think the right way, call her in any way. If you can't call her, think of her with the will to be rid of these things. Don't worry yourself with the idea whether you have true aspiration or not. The psychic being wants, and that is sufficient. The rest is the divine grace, on which one must steadfastly rely. One's own merit, virtue, or capacity is not the thing that brings the realization. I shall put the force to rid you of this obsession in any case. But if you can abandon these habitual ideas, it will make the disappearance of the attack easier. Now, this is a question from a disciple to Sri Aurobindo. This hostile force is still trying to attack me, and it also wants to harm you and the mother. When I utter your name and mother's name, it tries to finish me and make wrong impressions about mother and turn me against her. Why is it still troubling me? Sri Aurobindo replies, this force is one that is there to break the yoga if it can. It is not only you it attacks, but all who do the sadhana. It hates the mother and myself because we bring the light into the consciousness of the physical world, and it wants to keep the physical world in darkness. It knows that the only way it can succeed in preventing the success of the sadhak in his sadhana is first by turning him against the mother, or if it cannot do that, by persuading him that he is unfit and so disturbing him that he gets upset and loses faith and courage. What you have to do is always to remain calm and call in the mother's force and to refuse steadily all the suggestions, whether against yourself or against the mother. Preserve your calm always. Keep an entire faith in the mother and in your own spiritual destiny. Reply always that whatever it may say, you are the mother's child and cannot fail in the sadhana. Another question to Sri Aurobindo. Is it true that earthquakes are inevitable phenomena in the process of the divine manifestation on the earth and the transformation of matter? Sri Aurobindo. Not at all. The method of the divine manifestation is through calm and harmony, not through a catastrophic upheaval. The latter is the sign of a struggle, generally of conflicting vital forces, but at any rate, a struggle on the inferior plane. The mother is not testing you at every moment, but rather helping you at every moment to rise beyond the necessity of tests and difficulties which belong to the inferior consciousness. To be always conscious of that help will be your best safeguard against all attacks, whether of adverse powers or of your own lower nature. I'm very grateful to have been able to share these extraordinary quotations from Sri Aurobindo on the mother, her love, her force, and her help. Namaste.